Welcome to the session on representations of data, comparing data. The objectives for this session are to compare two data sets. When comparing two sets of data, you can comment on a measure of location, a measure of spread, and an extreme value. You can also either comment on mean and standard deviation or median and interquartile range, and this is in particular if the data has extreme values. Let's take a look at an example. The heights of randomly selected pupils in two classes is as shown. Compare the two data sets using the mean and standard deviation. So of course we have the raw data of the two sets here. Let's now proceed to find the mean and standard deviation before we comment on them. So let's solve this. We begin with finding the mean for class A, which is of course the sum of all these values divided by n equals 10, because there are 10 data values, which is equal to 171.9. And similarly for class B, add up all the values in class B, divide by n equals 10, and we have 183.6. And now recall the formula for variance. We're going to use the formula sum x squared over n minus x bar squared. Of course, in this formula we already have x bar for both these sets. We just need to find sum x squared. So for class A, sum x squared is each of the values in set A squared and then added up together, divided by n equals 10, because we have 10 data values. And this value comes to 29,626.7. Similarly for class B, we square each of these values in class B, add them up and divide by n equals 10 to give 33,764.2. So the variance can now be found using our formula. Sum x squared over n minus x bar squared to give 77.09 for class A. And for class B, similarly, sum x squared over 9 minus x bar squared gives 55.24. So here are the summary statistics for class A, the mean and the variance. And since standard deviation is square root of variance, we have that the standard deviation for class A is square root of 77.09, which equals 8.78. And for class B, it's the square root of 55.24 to give 7.43. And here's a summary. So we can now comment on the results we've found. Looking at the means, we can see that the mean height in class B is greater than that of class A. And the standard deviation in class A is greater than that of class B. Let's now take a look at another example. We are required to compare the box plots shown in the diagram. Pause the video and have a think about it. See what you can observe and press play when you're ready to listen. We have before us the ARMS exports for the top 12 ARMS exporters for years 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010 and 2020. What can we observe about these box plots? Let's take a look. Remember that we can look at extreme values, measures of spread, measures of location. Let's see what we can observe. Let's take a look at the medians. What can we notice about these medians? They've been highlighted with the red bars. Notice that the medians drop until 2000 and then start to rise again. It is actually quite difficult to see the details in the main box plots due to the presence of the extreme values, which have caused the graphs to be skewed to one side. Now let's consider the interquartile range for each of the box plots. These are represented in the diagram as shown by the red arrows. What can you notice about them? So let's take a look. The interquartile range decreases from 1980 to 2000. Then in 2010 it increases and then drops again in 2020. And now for the extreme values. Notice that the extreme values are present throughout 1980 to 2020. It would be interesting to explore the exports of the top ARMS exporter in isolation. So let's take a look. Having compared the data in the box plots, we now take a look at a snapshot of the data for the top ARMS exporter from 1980 to 2020. What's happening here? You can see this presented as a frequency polygon. Notice there's a steady increase with some fluctuations from 1980 to 1998. And then from 1998 to 2002, there's a sharp decrease. And then a steady increase again with some fluctuations from 2002 to 2020. Why not explore further yourself? What about ARMS imports? The data in this session has been taken from SIPRI, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. The key area that we've looked at is ARMS Transfers database. For more information, you could go to the link shown on your screen. This brings us to the end of this session. If you have understood its contents, you should be able to compare two datasets. Thank you very much for listening. To understand this topic in greater depth, do attempt the exercises in your textbook related to this topic.